Good evening. Good to be back for the 6th with Gerald, Quinn. Jeff Dre is back with us again this weekend, and by popular demand, Rick McLean has made a return appearance. Rick, I was flooded with requests. Where's Rick? So thanks for coming back and rejoining us.
Keep going, Chuck.
We're talking about game management tonight, and I can a couple of things I want to say before we start rolling some clips. Game management is extremely important. I don't like the term game management particularly. I particularly don't like when we start talking about we got to manage players and we got to manage coaches. I don't think we manage. I think that's demeaning to coaches and players. I don't like talking about managing people. I don't think that's really what we're there to do. What we're there to do is to work with people and communicate effectively with people and diffuse situations when they need to be diffused and referee basketball. A couple of game management philosophies that sort of caught fire when I first started refereeing basketball that I never really understood and really disagreed with it, to be blunt about it. One was this foul count thing, that game management meant that we needed to know what the foul count is, and if the foul count was out of whack, we needed to fix it. Well, we do need to know what the foul count is, because a large part of game management is awareness and not being caught by surprise by things. And if you don't know what the foul count is, and you've now got a 6-1 count, and you just called the 7th foul against that team, and you're standing at the table going, "Oh, are we in the 1-1 yet? Well, are we in the 1-1 yet?" The coach that just got the 7th foul called on him is going to come and let you know that, hey, yeah, they're in the 1-1 because the foul count's 7-1, you idiot. So we need to know this stuff, but we don't fix it. The players fix it, or they don't. But our job is to call fouls if they're fouls, and not call fouls if they're not fouls. Normally, if you've got a kind of a lousy, I mean, nobody likes a 7-1 foul count. I don't like a 7-1 foul count. Nobody does. But normally, you know, if you end the first half with a lousy foul count, I can't tell you how many games I've been in where just by the natural course of things, the foul count goes around the other way in the second half, just by itself. Because of the way the game's being played, whatever it is. Now, I think we would all agree that, and you know, I've come together with crews that I'm in, and we've got a 5-2 foul count. By the time it gets to 8-1, by the way, it's kind of hard to go to work on that. But if it's 5-2, 6-3, and maybe, you know, Rick and Gerald and I are in the game together, we might come together and say, "Hey guys, you know, we know what we got with the foul count. Let's make sure now if we've got an opportunity to call a foul on, you know, on the other end and get it to, you know, 5-3 or 5-4, you know, let's not miss that opportunity, even if it's one that where we've got some contact that maybe we would be passing on earlier in this basketball game. Now that we've got the count where it is, maybe we need to pick that one up. But let's make sure there's contact. I've been in games where there was absolutely no contact on the play and a whistle was blown. And I've asked the official, I said, "What did you see on that play?" He says, "Well, the foul count was bad." And I'm going like, "Dude, you can't penalize a player just because you don't like the foul count. The player didn't foul anybody." So, and what if that's that player's first foul, and then they go out and they legitimately pick up a second foul? It may be a point where now, let's say that player has one foul, and now late in the second half they pick up a second foul that you just put a phantom foul on that player because you don't like the foul count. And then they come out to start the third quarter and they pick up a real foul. Now they got 3 fouls. And now where they got to go? They got to go to the bench because you didn't like a foul count. So let's not feel like we got to make up fouls just because we don't like a foul count. We don't. That's a bad philosophy. And another bad philosophy is end of game fouls, or end of period fouls for that matter, where let the players decide the game. Don't call a foul. Let the players decide the game. Don't end the game on a foul. Don't let the game be decided by a foul you called. That is a horrible philosophy. It was a horrible philosophy then, and it's a horrible philosophy now. You're not deciding the game because of a foul you called. You're deciding, the player is deciding the game by a foul that player committed. And if you take away an opportunity for a player to make a shot or to go to the free throw line to win the game, when in fact they got fouled, if you take that opportunity away from them, you've decided. That's when we as officials have decided the basketball game. So with that said, court awareness, knowing the situation, knowing where your partners are, knowing what the foul count is, and for goodness sakes, knowing being aware of the clock at all times. All of those, and being able to communicate with players and coaches effectively, and being able to diffuse situations. We can't always succeed at that, but being consistently able to diffuse situations and getting the game back at the emotional level that it needs to be at, that's what makes for good game management. And that's what separates the Gerald Moyds and the Jeff Drays and the Rick McLeans and the Quinn Morrises from those of us who may be as just good as play call as they are, but we don't have those skills. And if we don't have those skills, we need to work on those skills. So hopefully this will help refresh us on some things and maybe give some people some ideas that they didn't have before about how they can more effectively work their games. With that said, does anybody have anything that they want to add? Then we'll move on to the next, to the first clip.
All right, clip number one is talking about game management and philosophies. Be careful with philosophies and putting yourself within a box, because this play in itself, and you'll see this drive here, we don't want to put ourselves in a box to where, because we believe in a philosophy, that we're not calling fouls. This was definitely a foul. Look at this replay, and the ball handler gets hit on the elbow, which affects the shot. Regardless, how strong the player is or not, that is a foul that affects that shot. We have to put a whistle on it. And now this player has opportunity. Whether they missed the free throws or not is irrelevant. But this player was fouled and should have an opportunity to actually shoot their free throws for this penalty.
Quinn, Gerald, the positioning here on an end of game situation like this.
On this play right here, as far as positioning go, if we start off with the lead official, I don't like the fact that the lead official is backing out as this drive is coming. I would like him for him to get to a spot and just stand there and get a good look at this play. And when we have end of game situations like this is the only time we probably want all official eyes on the ball. We want you to ball watch now. There's only one play in this game, and that's the player with the ball. And so everybody need to be watching that player. Would love to see the trail official come down. And this is a great time to have two slot officials on this play, because like I said, there's only one play. Everybody need to have an eye on this drive to the basket.
We talked earlier, guys, about when a lead official is in the middle of a rotation or starting a rotation and then realizes that he'd be rotating right in the middle of a drive, the lead official needs to back out and get some width and some angle on the play. But that's not what we have here. He's not going to rotate on this play, right? I mean, there's not going to be a rotation on this play. So he's in a kind of a closed down position, pinch position to referee this drive to the basket, and then decides to back his way out of it. And that's where he made his mistake. So it's not automatic that when there's a drive to the basket, the lead official needs to back out. That's not what have you said 100 times, George? You moved to improve. He didn't improve by this movement, right?
No, definitely did not.
Okay.
And most of the time, if we're not in a good position by the time the drive starts, we're just going to be in a bad position. We're not going to get to where we need to go and be able to effectively referee the play by moving during the drive. So the key to a lot of things that we've all been talking about is not moving on the drive. It's getting in a good position. It's getting wide so that when that drive starts from out wide, you already have a nice wide position. But on this play, I mean, if he actually has a good, as Gerald pointed out, he has a great position right here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if he'd have just stayed there, he would have had maybe a better look at that foul than I think he sort of just straight lines himself by backing out. So it's all about getting a good position, especially in lead, but getting a good position before the drive begins. Once the drive begins, there aren't many situations where I think we do ourselves a service by moving one way or the other during the drive.
Jeff?
Yeah, we all Blue could do is after White gathered the rebound was foul. We get to that foul quick. C comes in case anything happens, and by getting that foul quickly, we prevent having to call an intentional foul. There's still 3.4 seconds to go in the game. Did a good job getting on the foul, but pretty good position.
All right, next clip. This is Quinn's favorite clip, everybody, of all time.
Of all time.
So Jeff, you're going to talk to us about who has, in high school basketball, who has primary responsibility for end of period shots.
Yeah, so C has the shot here at the end of the period. It's his primary all the way, takes it to the basket. Close, really close. A little nonchalant on the basket for it to be that close. Everybody in the crew has an opinion on this. We did talk as a group that if C bangs this shot a little more forcefully, we're going to let him ride with that call. However, if somebody has a different opinion and thinks that it was after the light goes on and after the buzzer, you got to come in and talk about it as a crew. You can change a call in that situation if the C was incorrect. Happened to be correct in this situation, would like to see this C be a little more forceful in counting the basket.
The reason that the center official has the primary responsibility on this play is because in high school basketball, the outside opposite of the official who's outside opposite the table has primary responsibility for end of period shots. And in this case, the outside official who happened to be opposite the table happened to be the slot official. And there are situations where, let's say, and we don't have a clip, I can't give you a visual on this, but there are times when the trail is opposite the table, and therefore the trail would have primary responsibility for the shot, but the trail is administering a throw in from deep in the backcourt with, 4 seconds left to go, 3 seconds left to go, and realizes based on how deep he or she is in the backcourt and how little time is left in the period, that there's no way if that ball gets up into the front court fast, that they're going to be able to catch up to the play and be credible enough or have a good enough look to take that primary responsibility. In those cases, we give that up, right, Quinn?
Correct.
And we just step out and signal, to your partners, hey, just point to them or have something that you've already predetermined in your pregame, that this is how we're going to signal that we're giving it up to the other two officials in the crew. Generally speaking, it would be to the slot official, that I'm too far away. I'm not going to be able to catch up to this play if it gets into the front court. So therefore, I'm turning over this responsibility to this other official. Anything else to add to the way this was handled, Quinn?
Well, just to mention, I mean, again, this is, we've sort of already mentioned the end of game or end of period plays, right? We all need to have an opinion on this play. If the slot comes out, and again, we'd like to see a little more forceful counting of the basket. If in fact he believes it was good, just hit the whistle, come out, score it. If for some reason, let's say the trail just absolutely disagrees with that, the trail thinks I had a great look at it, and the ball was definitely still in the player's hand, then we want the trail to come to the slot with that information. And we're going to treat that just like we would bring in information on any other play, right? It's the same as if on an out of bounds play, I point and give it to black and you're thinking, no, I know it was off white. So we're going to, but ultimately it's the slot's call, and it's the slot's call to either stay with or overturn. Now, if the slot is not sure, let's say, on this play, the slot's got a pretty good look at it, but let's say a player just steps right in front of him at the last second. He's really not sure. Well, the one thing we know is that when the ball goes through the basket, it's dead, either because she didn't get the shot off in time or because it went in. So we're just going to put our hand up. We're going to stop the clock, and we're going to get together with our partners and determine whether or not the basket should have counted. If in fact we don't know. In this play, obviously, by scoring the basket, he's saying, I saw her release the shot with enough time. And so unless somebody has information they want to bring to him, then that's what we're gonna go with. But just again, if for some reason we don't know, we can just kill it, get together, talk about it. And then we don't want it to be a long conversation. We need to decide what happened, step out, either score it or wipe it off, whatever you're going to do. And then let's get going, because we don't want to spend any more time on this than we already have.
Well, Quinn, that's great. That's good. And what if you're the slot official on this particular play? What if you were, Quinn, and you count it, but you realize that it's very, very close? What if, even though you've counted it, the coach for white sees you count it and is, is going a little bit crazy?
Yeah, I think there are moments when we can know we're right and we can still go talk to our partner just for the optics of the situation. So that's probably a situation. Sometimes I like to make it clear. So I might go to, say, in this case, the trail, and just say, I've got that basket as counting. You're good with that, right? Like, especially if I don't really want a dissenting opinion, because I know what I have. Right. But for the optics of it, we might get together and look at it. Now, again, depending on how sure you are, you can change that phrasing a little bit, right? If I'm a little less sure, I might go, I had that as counting. Do you have anything different? Right? That's giving somebody a little more opportunity to get in there. But there are opportunities to get together and talk about things, or to give the appearance that we're talking about them, even if we might be 100% sure we have the call right.
This is a major moment. And even though it's the first half, this is a major moment. This is what William Covington Sr. Talks about when he talks about major moments. There's no doubt in my mind, if this was Gerald, Quinn, if you guys were in a monitor, you would go to the monitor on this. Even though you banged in and you think it's right, you go to the monitor, automatically go to the monitor.
Automatically.
you can never be wrong getting together as a crew just to make sure that everybody in the crew is on the same page, that this shot counts or doesn't count. Never. We don't have a monitor, but we have each other. And so why not use each other like you would, kind of like you would use a monitor? It just looks better. So anyhow, that's that. One last thing to talk about in this situation, not this situation, but a rule that a lot of us forget about, may not even be aware of, is the 0.3 of a second or less rule. That doesn't apply here because here we have a live ball with the clock running. But if we have a throw in or a free throw with 0.3 of a second or less on the clock, and the clock is stopped, of course, we cannot have a made basket if the throw in is caught and then shot, or if the free throw is missed and the rebound is caught and then shot. We can only have, in those two situations, a made basket if the ball is tapped into the basket and it's tapped before the time expires. But if the ball is caught on a throw in with 0.3 of a second left and then shot, it doesn't matter when the horn goes off, the basket can't count. Same thing if a rebound is missed, caught, and then shot. In high school basketball, you cannot have a made basket, no matter when the horn goes off. And what I like to say as a reminder in pre-games in crews that I'm in, or if we've got a timeout, late in the ball game, it's close, is, hey, there's whoever sees the catch, kill it. Forget about primary. Whoever sees, because the ball might be thrown to somebody right in front of them and they can see a catch, whereas the official who might have primary responsibility in that normal situation can't see it. So, but that's the rule. So just remember that. That's a major moment. 0.3 of a second left will be a major moment if it's a close ball game. All right, anything else? Well, we'll go to the next clip. Okay, we have a technical foul here. What has occurred, according to the lead, according to the way the play was called, is number 5 blue has a throw in. Number 5 white, who I think we're going to see later on, reaches across in another clip, reaches across the plane on the throw in and dislodges the ball. The rule is, on a throw in, if a defender reaches across the plane and touches or dislodges the ball, it is automatically a technical foul. And it's a technical foul on that player as well as the team. All technical fouls in high school basketball count as team technicals. So, and that applies whether or not a warning has been given in the game. That constitutes the delay of game warning that would apply in that situation. So we have a technical foul in this situation because by rule, it is a technical foul if the defender reaches across the plane and touches or dislodges the ball. Now, had number 5 blue reached that ball across the plane and then the ball gets touched, it's a free ball at that point. 5 would have been perfectly within his rights to touch the ball, dislodge the ball, steal the ball, whatever. But if he reaches across the plane to do, if he reached across the plane to do it, then we have a problem. Now, one of the things to remember about that is if he had missed the ball and whacked the guy across the arm, if 5 white had made contact with 5 blue by reaching across the plane, we have a whole different rule to apply there. We have, and I didn't even look it up, but that's an intentional foul by rule, is it not, guys?
Yes.
So that's a different rule. Now, in connection with all that, let's talk very briefly. There are 4 delays in high school basketball that would warrant a warning. One is for reaching across the plane. Not talking about hitting the ball, but had he just reached across the plane, nothing else, that would be a warning. You stop the game, give the warning. And I'll talk about how you do that in just a second. Huddling in the free throw lane but players huddling in the free throw lane on a free throw. That would be a delay situation. That would warrant a warning. Interfering with the ball after a made basket, and I'm choosing my words carefully. I'm choosing my words by the rule book. Interfering with the ball after a made basket would constitute a warning for delay of game. And the other delay of game warning would be if a team has not made the court ready for play following a timeout. That's the famous, they've spilled water all over the floor and the timeout is over with. The players were supposed to be putting the ball back in play, but instead we're spending half an hour wiping water off the floor. By rule, that is a delay of game warning. In high school basketball, those are the only 4 delays that call for a warning to be put in the book. You put it in the book and notify the scorekeeper to put the warning in the book and notify the head coach. Normally you can do that pretty much all at the same time. You don't have to, you don't have to do it separately. If you're like me, everybody in the gym knows that the warning's been granted, it's been put in the book. So now if a team violates, if a team that's been given a warning for any one of those 4 things, does any one of those 4 things, again, later on in the basketball game, that's a technical foul. So if you've given a delay of game warning for reaching across the plane on a throw in, and then later on you've got a player on the same team interferes with the ball after a made basket, let's say, that's a technical foul. And that's a team technical, not a player technical. Don't confuse this now with situations where, let's say, a player, you've called a foul on a player, somebody in the crew has called a foul on a player, and the player takes the ball and throws it down to the other end of the court. Okay. Nobody wants to call a technical foul for that, but that's a technical foul. And there is absolutely, it is not a warning. You do not put a delay of game warning in the book for that. That's not one of the 4 things. So stick to the 4 things. That's what we're talking about. And I think that's really all I need to say about all that. Probably said too much. One other thing I wanted to, this is, however, now a good illustration, again, just good game management techniques. The calling official calls his partner over. The only discussion that we're going to have here is the calling official needs to make sure that his partner knows exactly what we got. This is an unusual situation. We don't see it all the time. It's a technical foul. Make sure that they are all in agreement that it's who it's going to be charged to, how it's going to be administered. So we've taken our time to do that. And then the coach, he's not going to know what he got. So he's asked a question. He's given an explanation, walked away. Walk away. This coach apparently took the explanation and lived with it. But if he's got anything else to say about it, you're walking away from him, which he didn't. But if he is talking to the official, walk away, make him come get you if he wants you. And one last thing, Jeff, I think you brought this up some time ago. On a throw in, I should have mentioned this earlier. On a throw in, and it doesn't matter what kind of a throw in it is. This is not. This is a technical foul, but let's say that the number 5 on the throw in the defensive team had kicked the ball on the throw in, okay, or had committed a common foul on the throw in, and we're not in the bonus. So the defensive team either has a violation on the throw in or a common foul, and we're not in the bonus during the throw in. We're going to go back to the end line and we're going to have that same throw in. And if that number 5 was entitled to run the baseline, which he was in this case, he's still going to be entitled to run the baseline. You cannot lose your right to run the baseline as a result of a foul or a violation by a common foul or a violation by the defense. I think I said that right. The only time that would not apply, I said you're not going to lose your right to run the inline. That's if you're going back to the inline with the throw in. If that foul or violation occurs further up the court where you've got to make a sideline throw in, then you're going to make the sideline throw in. And of course, then you don't have an inline throw in. We okay? Can we move on, guys?
Yeah, Chuck. Hey,
Yo.
hey, one thing about, you said technical fouls about getting with your partners. I think on all technical fouls, we should find one of our partners and let them know what we have. In some cases, we've had officials have a technical foul and just go straight to the table. And your partners have no idea what you have. So I think it's a good idea to always find one of your partners. And this is something we discussed in pregame. If we have a technical foul, I'm going to come to you guys first before I go to the table and report anything.
Great point. Okay. Situational awareness. I spoke of such situational awareness in my opening monologue.
You
So,
did.
Rick,
It's a perfect setup too. On this particular play, I mean, we talk about situation where it's 5-5 again. Watch this. So they got tangled up here, which we deemed nothing took place. But if you look at the placement of our center official, he was in a perfect at a perfect angle. And this play actually heightened his awareness that these two players probably been going at this all game. As we saw in that first clip, we had 5-5, which 5 white had that technical foul. So there's probably going to be some aggressive action coming up the floor. And lo and behold, more or less almost like a little retaliation foul, but I mean, or retaliation action for 5 white as he goes into Blue's body. And this official, with that heightened awareness of what happened in the previous series, was right on top of it. And I mean, that's the way that we have to see these situations unfolding. You almost have to, when you get in that situation, see situations that may possibly happen until they don't. So this particular situation started on one end, probably started early in the game. And, the only recourse that we have, or the tools in our box that we have, is to put a whistle on it.
Yep. And, Quinn, we got into an elaborate discussion pre-film on this play, but let's say this had happened in the first quarter and there'd been nothing going on between these two players in this game. Okay. And let's say that you did clearly 5 blue baits 5 white into this and embellishes a little bit. I mean, clearly, but there's contact on this play that 5 white initiates, and the official has had enough of this stuff going on between these two players. So he puts a whistle on this play, and I think properly so. But let's say, Quinn, that we were much earlier in this basketball game and there hadn't been anything going on, and you chose not to put a whistle on this play. What would you do then?
Well, we got to say something to him.
Right.
We can't let this go unaddressed. And I'll even go so far as to say, I mean, if I don't put a whistle on this play, I'm kicking myself for not doing that to begin with, even early in the game, because again, these are clearly 2 players going at it. But it's back to, but we can use our words effectively in certain situations too. So if for some reason I just blow it and don't have a whistle on this, I still have an opportunity to at least, say a little something to let them know I'm there, I'm watching. But also to Rick's point about situational awareness, people know just from watching these clips that 5-5 are already a problem as it relates to one another. And their issues are putting a problem in our game. We've had a technical foul. We've now had we've actually had multiple common fouls between them. So when we have this foul right here, part of our situational awareness is to know that, you know, this foul probably isn't going to stop it either. I mean, the previous 4 fouls we've called between them haven't stopped it. And so we got to be a little more patient here to stick with this play. We have really good patience actually on this front end. We have good patience where they get tangled up, it goes down. We have really good patience by the slot of sticking with that to make sure we're good. But when we actually have the foul call on the other end, we're just in a little too big of a hurry to get to the table, right? So instead of going straight to the table, I would have rather us hung right here for the same amount of time. It doesn't have to be long, another second, just to see what develops. We want the lead, right? So this is going to be a bump and run situation. So because the ball is going to be put in play here on the sideline. So the C is going to step out, report the foul, and go become the new lead. We want here the new lead already coming over this way to help clean up the backside of this play, to get eyes on these players. So I'd like the C to stay here another second longer, the lead to get over here. And again, in terms of using good verbal communication, you know, if Gerald Moyd is in the lead, I can guarantee you he's sprinting over to get in that spot. And he's saying to me, Quinn, you're good. I got you. Go ahead. You know, is it just, you know, letting our partner know, all right, I'm here now, you can go report. So we make sure we have eyes constantly on these 2 players, because we know they're going to be an issue in this game.
That's perfect. And I would also suggest that in this situation, if the trail is aware of the fact that the lead is not aware of what's going on, then the trail needs to go in there and try to prevent anything further from happening on this play, because this play is fraught with peril. And it's like we've said before, I don't want to wait until the fire breaks out. I want to throw water on this pile on this situation before the fire breaks out. So that's a great analysis, guys. Jeff?
Yeah, we have a contact foul here. That can't be technical. It's either going to be intentional or just a common offensive foul. We will never have a contact technical foul during a live ball. And it wasn't flagrant in nature. It wasn't excessive. It wasn't violent, and didn't display unacceptable conduct. So we had an offensive foul there. Good call. The other option, like I said, could be intentional. If we'd have had it.
Go ahead, Jeff.
If we'd have had a double foul in that situation, we would have just gone no free throws, gone to point of interruption, and put the ball back in play. We didn't, but we only had one.
That's a good point. Since we've got a visual on this, Quinn, if we hadn't seen, sometimes we don't see the whole play. We weren't situationally aware, and we got caught by surprise on this, and we put a double foul on this play when it didn't want a double foul. Where would you put the ball? You never shoot free throws in high school basketball on a double foul. So it's point of interruption. The point of interruption here is White's got possession of the ball, so they're going to get the ball back. Okay, let's move on.
Raise it there, Quinn. Right, that's perfect. Okay. That's perfect. Right, we're just going to talk about positioning right now real quick. The slot official, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, looks like 5, 6 players below the free throw line. So I would love if the slot official on this play would also be below the free throw line. As I always say, right now he's refereeing backwards. So get as low as the players are and get even with the players to start this playoff. And I think he's in great position to start this playoff. As we go up the court, he's in excellent position here. He's moving with the pack. Everyone's in great position on this play. Slot is in. He can see right through the players. Good job by the slot on this play right here.
This isn't a backcourt as a dribbler, you gotta have all three components over the half court line to be in the front court. We have 1 foot touch the line. The other foot and the ball stays in the backcourt. So as a dribbler, all three components have to be in the front court before you can go back in the backcourt and have a backcourt call.
Yeah, and just looking at this play, I mean, we're not going to talk about right now as to your patience because on this play we have Trail granting a timeout, we have Slot with a violation, and on this particular play, for optics' sake, I would have loved for, since we had two differentiating opinions, to come together and let's talk about what happened and how we're going to resume play. In this, I would have loved for either C going over to the Trail or Trail coming over to the C, and let's have a quick discussion and determine what we're going to do here, just for optics' sake. But here we granted the timeout, and it just looks weird. But if we clear up all of that, if we come together.
So this is a 4-point ball game with 3 minutes left to go in the ball game. And the player who had the ball clearly traveled with it. By granting that timeout, we're taking a possession away now from the team in white, correct? Because the traveling violation would have given the ball to the team in white. This puts this kind of play in high school basketball is one of the most difficult situations that we have to deal with it. You guys that referee men's college basketball, and I can't remember what the rule is in on the women's side, but definitely on the men's side, y'all don't have to worry about this. We do. This is a hard play because the head coach for the team in possession is entitled to call a timeout on a live ball in high school basketball. The Trail official, no other official in this crew is in a position to grant this timeout. The Slot is totally occupied on ball, and the lead can't. He can't know where the ball is in this situation. I mean, he can't see where the ball is. The Trail has to find out. Okay, somebody's asking for a timeout. Who's asking for this timeout over here on the bench? Because only the head coach on the bench can request a timeout. So he's got to find the coach. He's got to then go back and find the ball. He's got to know where the ball was when the coach was asking for the timeout. And by the time he grants this timeout, that travel has already occurred. I'm not saying that the coach didn't ask for the timeout before the travel. I'm not saying that at all. But I am saying that the number 11 has traveled with this ball before we're able to signal timeout. We've already signaled the travel before we've signaled timeout. Puts us in a very, very difficult situation in the 4-point ball game where we're determining possession. We can't just take over. I mean, somebody's got to make a decision. Somebody's got to take over this play quickly. But Rick's point is that we would have looked a lot better if we'd have come together and at least pretended like we're deciding who had this first, as opposed to just coming together and saying, I had this first. I've got the timeout before your travel. And even if he steps out of the court, Gerald made the point off camera, so to speak. It just come out of the court, blow your whistle a few times, and just take over the play so that where everybody can hear say, hey, I had a timeout before the travel. I had a timeout before the travel. That way he's telling everybody in the court, I know exactly what happened, and I know I had a timeout before that travel, period. All right. Gerald, do you want to add anything to that?
No, that's great.
All right.
Now, this play actually sets up a moment where we do have a jump ball take place. You see that rotation that took place, recognize he steps up to accept the play, and we have a scrum. And we do have a jump ball. Now, we do have the official that comes over and gives the signal that the coach we grant the coach a timeout. We'd love to, had a little bit more patience on it, but in this same situation, we need to make sure that we do come and talk about it and make a determination. They did in this situation here.
It's really, again, this just reiterates what I said earlier. This is a tough situation for us to be in as officials. This trail is hell bent on making sure, I think he's the trail, maybe he's moving to the slot. He's hell bent on making sure that this coach doesn't miss this opportunity and lose possession of the ball. So he wants to give him the timeout that he's asking. But you got to know where the ball is. When you grant a timeout, you have got to know where the ball is. I don't know what he's saying in this discussion, but at least they come together and make a decision. I think they decided to grant the timeout, although it looks like the guy that granted the timeout is affirming that we had a held ball, but I think they ended up granting the timeout. That's beside the point. This is tough. Who has the ball when this timeout is being? How does he know? Because he had to turn away to see that was the coach asking for that timeout, and when he turned away, there's no way he knows what the status of the ball is at that very moment. There's no way he knows that. But
And Chuck, to this clip, Gerald, I think you made a perfect point. If you can make it again about the patience
On the trail.
Right.
Oh, if we go back to the play, go back where the scrum occurs. When we're on the floor, but just to make a point, when we have a scrum on the floor, we don't have to rush in there with 2 thumbs up, giving the jump ball signal. Let's blow the whistle, put one hand up, stop the clock, and let's get in there. Let's make sure everything is clean. Make sure everybody comes up clean. Nobody's doing anything illegal. There's no rush to give the jump ball signal. Get everything under control, and then we can always give the jump ball signal after things are under control. And that actually would have buy the trail official a little bit more time to get in there before we gave the jump ball signal.
Or to maybe recognize that another whistle had been blown.
Yes.
all right.
Ready for the next one?
Yes, sir. So this is happening over and over and over again, as you guys can see. Different games, same issues. So this ball is going to get on the sideline, and now we're going to have a scrum. Okay. Now you see this coach is asking. I think Rick pointed this out the last time we looked at this clip. This coach is requesting a timeout from the trail official. There is no way, and the trail official does a great job. He knows the coach is asking for a timeout. There is no way the trail official can know where the ball is, what the status of the ball is at that point. No way. And so, as Rick pointed out a couple of weeks ago, he does a great job of not granting a timeout. You're not compelled to grant timeouts in these situations. If you don't know for sure who's requesting it, you don't know for sure what the status of the ball is, and you're in a position where there's no way you can know for sure, then you're not required to grant the timeout. It's an impossible situation for the crew. Nobody in this crew can grant this timeout. Nobody. The lead official is not in a position to do it. You're about to cut me off, Quinn.
I don't know what's going on. I don't know why that thing keeps popping up.
The lead official is not in a position to do it. The trail official is not in a position to do it. And let me take a moment to say, the coach, when he doesn't get this timeout, and if he loses possession of the ball because of a change of possession, held ball situation or whatever, he's going to have something to say about it. That's okay. Don't be offended. he wants the timeout and he's not going to get it. First he asked for the timeout from the lead. The lead's not even looking at him. He can't be looking at it. So just don't get offended by the fact that he's out here. Oh, he's out of his box. What are we going to do now? Just nothing. Get him back in his box. Tell him, hey, coach, I couldn't see the ball. And that's the end of the discussion. That's all he needs to know.
And Chuck, to that point, if I can make a quick point too,
Sure.
I think we're more apt to calling a timeout for that coach when we're not prepared that they're going to call a timeout. You almost have to know in that situation, if there's going to be a jump ball, coaches want to save possessions. So in that mindset, you almost have to think like a coach, when are they going to call timeouts? So that prepares you that, hey, maybe I need to stay off of this and give myself a little patience and not be surprised and give them a timeout.
Great point. Now let's talk about some possible scenarios here that don't actually take place, but it gives us an opportunity to talk about some scenarios that could compel you to use the best game management skills that you can possibly have. Let's say that you grant this timeout to I forget which team is, which team this guy's coaching. I guess he's coaching red. Let's say you grant this timeout. We don't have a held ball. We still have a scrum. The center of the slot official, the covering official, is looking right at this play, and White has the ball. Does White have the ball there? White has, let's say red, yeah. Let's say red had the ball. And we granted the timeout to White, and the covering official knows red's got the ball. What do we do? Well, I can tell you what we do. He's he's asked for a timeout. The other team has the ball. So White actually gets this ball right there. He's kind of got it. He's sliding. He can slide by the way. But let's say the coach for red thinks he's still got the ball, so he asks for the timeout, and we grant it. You have to live with that timeout. You grant that timeout, even though red didn't have the ball. White had the ball. Because you granted the timeout, you give the timeout to red, and White will get the ball for the throw in because they had possession of the ball when you blew your whistle. The coach for White is going to want to know how did you manage to grant that timeout to red when we had the ball? What are you doing? You made a mistake. The coach going to be upset. Now is your time to use your ability to communicate effectively with coaches and to diffuse the situation, and just admit that you made the mistake. And for God's sakes, let's get that ball back in play, as reasonably quickly as we can. Now, another possibility in a play like this, if we do what, if we fail to do what Rick and Gerald and Quinn have suggested that we do, and that is be a little bit more patient in these situations. What if the ball was loose when this coach asked and is granted the timeout, and the ball is just loose on the floor and nobody's got possession of the ball? Now what do we do? Well, there's a rule that covers that too. But before I tell you what the rule is, let me tell you, you put yourself and the crew in a bad situation, and you better be prepared to use your game management skills, because the rule is that you're going to grant the timeout, but the team that was in possession at the time the timeout was granted is going to get possession of the ball for a throw when we come back. Was there a team in possession? If there is a point of interruption, that's what we're going to. Well, there was a team in possession. Let's assume the ball was loose at the time the timeout was granted. The team that was in possession while that ball was loose was the team in red. They're dribbling the ball gets knocked loose right there. The team in red still has team possession. You do not lose team possession on this interrupted dribble until the other team gains possession. So if a timeout is granted at any point before White gets possession of this ball right here, we've got timeout granted during a loose ball with no player in possession. we got to go with the timeout, but we got to give the ball back to red. And we got to know that as a crew. We got to know the rule, and we got to know who was in possession when we screwed up. Now, we're in a bad situation because everybody's going to be yelling at us, and we've got to calm ourselves down to talk our way through that and to do, to reconstruct the play to come up with the right ruling. One other thing I want to talk about is what if White had possession of the ball? We don't have a held ball. White gets possession of the ball, and the coach for White is yelling something that you think he's saying timeout, but he's not actually asking for a timeout. He's saying something that might sound like timeout under the situation, but he's not asking for a timeout. But you grant him a timeout. Now what do? Now you have an inadvertent whistle. You don't grant the timeout. If you realize that you've made the mistake, he's not even asking for a timeout. You have an inadvertent whistle. You do not charge him with a timeout. You put the ball back in play. You put the ball back in play at the point of interruption of the inadvertent whistle. So if a player had possession of the ball at the time of the inadvertent whistle, you give that ball back to that team. Do I need to add anything or subtract anything from that or clarify anything on that, guys?
No.
All right.
I think when the trail official, I think it's the trail official does exactly what we talked about in the last clip. He runs in there, he gets in there first before he gives his jump ball signal. I thought that was an excellent job of showing what we were talking about from the last clip.
It is. All right, last clip.
On this play, we have a situation, and we're just going to go through the whole process, what we need to do, and when we have situations like this. Okay, the first thing we need to do here is we need to get everybody calm. We need to calm everything down, get everybody under control, make sure we get everybody off the court. We don't need all three officials running in when we have a little scrum like this. We need one official to stand back, just observe everything, watch benches, watch players, take numbers if we have players coming off the bench. So just to make sure if two officials are in there trying to break it up, one official stand back and just really observe things. After we get everything calmed down, we get teams to their benches. No conversations with coaches until the crew talk. Get together with the crew, face the benches while we're talking. Don't turn our back to the benches. So we need to keep an eye on both teams and make sure no players are leaking out onto the floor. The referee needs to conduct this meeting with the crew. Gather all the information from the crew. The referee will take the information to the table. You one and you two watch benches. Make sure teams are not walking onto the floor. Make sure coaches are not bothering the referee while he's at the table and trying to talk to him. After we finish with the table, we need to get both coaches together. This is not going to be a Q&A session. Let coaches know what we have, what we're going to do, how we're going to resume play. So on this play, initially we had a jump ball. After the jump ball, we have a dead ball technical foul. Moments later, we have a second technical foul. These were charged as two separate technical fouls. The jump ball is not a factor now, and the jump ball pretty much goes out the window. We do not use the alternating possession arrow to resume play. The first offended team will shoot two shots first. Then the opposing team will shoot two shots and receive the ball at mid-court opposite the table to resume play. Jeff,
So
I think
I don't think you could see it. I don't know that you could see it, but after the initial shove, there was something else going on between two other players a little bit further up the floor, right, Gerald?
yes. We had one player run up and pretty much bump another player, get in his face. After this initial shove, we had another player run up to another player with a second technical foul took place while we were separating players.
So Jeff, before you talk about the difference between a double foul in this situation and what was called in this situation, I just want to make sure everybody keeps in mind, if Quinn, I think I'm right on this, we didn't rehearse this, but since this was the potential for a fight here, my understanding of the rule is, or my recollection of the rule is, the head coaches can come out on the floor if they're come out to try to break things up, or keep things under control. Is that correct?
Correct.
And the assistant coaches can too now in high school basketball. Isn't that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So keep that in mind. And that's one of the things that but the problem is, Quinn, is if players start to come out on the floor. So if you're the observing official, one of the things that I guess you want to try to do is hopefully keep players from putting you in a bad spot, right?
Yeah, Gerald sort of mentioned, right, we don't need all three officials running into this play. I mean, this is a drive that basically goes from the slot to the lead. So they've got this play. I mean, they've got this scrum. Whatever happens here, they've pretty well got it covered up. This is actually, I mean, we often talk about the trail coming in to get more engaged, but with these sort of dead ball situations, often just taking a step back, right? Being able to observe both benches, seeing if anybody comes off. Again, we don't want to, I think if you look close, like some kid jumps up, does his little pinky toe cross onto the court? Maybe, but that's not what we're looking for, right? We're looking for people coming off of the bench as if they were going to participate, right? So being able to have all that other stuff so that the slot and the lead can deal with the players we have right here. And if players do start coming off the benches, we're going to need to know who came off the bench. We're going to need to then, know based on that how many we have, right? Because if we have equal numbers, we're not going to shoot anything for those. Although those will all be flagrant technical fouls for leaving the bench. But we need to know who they are, because we're going to have to fill out a lot of paperwork here. And we need to know, in order to move the game forward, who those players are. So being right there by the table, that's a perfect opportunity even to saddle up next to the scorekeeper and say, I'm about to start giving you some numbers, write them down for me. I got white 31, white 14, blue or red 15, whatever it is. Help all that other stuff while slot and lead are taking care of the real action going on down here.
Very good. And by the way, you mentioned paperwork. We're not going to get into that. It's a subject I really don't want to spend any time on, but other than to say that before you do any paperwork, you need to get with your supervisor of officials, who happens to be Art Harden, and make sure we've got everything cleared as terms of what we're going to put in the report and whether we're going to categorize something as a fight or not, all that sort of stuff. Art wants to have a crack at, well, not Art. The North Carolina High School Athletic Association wants the regional supervisor to have a crack at all that before it gets to Chapel Hill. Jeff?
Sorry, let me add one other thing. Just, I want to reiterate something that was said at the meeting. Coaches are going to want to know, especially if you have ejections, how many games that this player may be suspended. Don't get into any of that with coaches. Go through Art after the game. And I think what Mr. Mock suggested is to tell them that, it's in the handbook.
Right.
You can go look in the handbook. I'm actually going to go a step further and just tell them, Coach, I don't know anything about that. The the High School Athletic Association will be in touch with you. So stay out of those conversations. Sorry.
Oh, that's good. Very good. Jeff?
Yeah, last thing, the crew processed these two technical fouls correctly. If we would have had a double foul where the two players were making contact with each other and we didn't have a time separation, we would have had a double technical foul. In that case, we would not shoot free throws. We go back to the point of interruption and resume the game.
Very good. I believe that concludes the session.